Warren Chapel Baptist Church, where Dr. Aaron Reynolds Jr. is the pastor.
Good morning. Welcome to the Have Faith television broadcast coming from the sanctuary of the Warren Chapel Baptist Church. We're located at 3495 Roland Road in the beautiful city of Beaumont, Texas. Get your Bible, get a cup of coffee. You'll receive a word this morning that will impact your life, and you'll never be the same again. Like a T.I. is.
That's right. Amen.
Sin is sin. If it's your child, it's sin. If it's your sibling, it's sin. Lord have mercy. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, sin is sin. And if you're going to get mad, don't get mad with the mailman. You the one made the bill.
All right, doctor. Preach, Reverend. Preach, doctor.
You can get in trouble when you're being obedient.
That's right. Amen.
When you're telling folk right from wrong, you can get in trouble. When you sugarcoat, you can get a crowd.
That's right.
But when you tell it like it is, the crowd gets thin.
Amen.
I wish I had a praying church.
Amen, Reverend.
But see, it only confirms that even in obedience to the Lord,
Yeah.
the storms of life will come at you unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And I hear you arguing in your mind. I hear you saying, if Jesus is directing you, he should prevent any storm from coming into your life. Well, my brothers and sisters, I want to tell you, Jesus knows the storm is coming. He knows that trouble is on its way to your house.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he forewarned us. He said to us like he said to Peter. He says, the devil hath desired to sift you as wheat. He said, but I prayed for you.
Yeah.
That your faith will fail you not.
Yeah.
And after you are converted, strengthen your brother.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, is there anybody in here ready for the sifting?
All right.
I wish I had a praying church in here. And just in case you don't know it, you are ready. And the reason why you are ready is because Jesus has already prayed for you.
Amen.
And if nobody else can get a prayer through, I know Jesus can. Anybody know Jesus can get a prayer through? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, Jesus can get a prayer through. And because he can get a prayer through, it gives me the assurance that everything will be all right.
Amen.
So if you don't mind, look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, it's going to be all right. See, these disciples, they're like us. They got disturbed. They weren't disturbed because they were in the storm. They became disturbed because the storm got in them.
Wow. Word, Reverend.
I wish I had a praying church in here.
Yeah.
You know, if you can just maintain your cool when you're under pressure,
Yeah.
everything will be all right.
All right.
But the moment you lose your cool,
Yes.
that's when all hell will break loose.
Yeah.
Case in point, remember when you had that supervisor or shift leader that was just talking crazy to you?
Come on, Doc.
As long as you kept your mouth shut, you were able to keep your job. But the moment you open up your flap,
Have mercy.
that's what they told you you had a 3-day suspension
Call, brother. Call.
without pay.
Without.
And you went back to work into the same scenario. And they hoped that you would have learned from the previous. Found out you didn't learn nothing because you opened up your mouth again. And this time they sent you home for a week without pay. Came back, same shift leader, same supervisor, same mess. And this time you said, I'm full and I can't take no more.
Lord have mercy.
You open up your flap again, and this time you were terminated.
Have mercy.
And all you had to do was just keep your mouth shut.
That's the plan.
If you don't mind, look at somebody and tell them, learn how to keep your mouth shut. Sometimes we just talk too much. I'm a man, I'm a woman. You can't talk to me like I'm grown. I'm not a child. Boy, y'all quiet on me. As long as the storm is on the outside,
Come on, brother. Help us, Doc.
you can handle it. But the moment the storm gets on the inside, somebody said, well, how do you know when the storm done got on the inside? When they start getting on your nerves.
Come on, Reverend. Yes, sir.
Anybody ever had somebody to get on your nerves?
Yes, sir. Amen.
When they get on your nerves, want to make you say something? That's the indicator that the storm is on the inside. But as long as the storm is on the outside, everything is what we used to say was Cooper steady. Y'all don't know what that means? That means it's all right. And so when you look at the text, you discover that the storm, as long as the water was outside of the ship,
Yeah.
they were able to handle it. They were able to just sit there and ride the waves out.
Talk, Doc. Talk.
But the moment the boat became filled with the water,
Yeah.
that's when they concluded that their life was in danger.
Yeah.
And my brothers and sisters, I just want to give you 4 quick tips on how to make sure you're journeying through your storm
Yeah. Come on, Reverend.
and not in your storm. Because if you're journeying through, there's a beginning and there's an ending. But if you're journeying in, you're going to be in the storm the whole journey.
Wow.
First point is, we've got to learn how to remember what Jesus said.
Amen.
You see, my brothers and sisters, Jesus said to his disciples, he says, let us pass over to the other side. He did not say, let us get in the ship
and stay on the water.
Come on, Reverend.
He said, let us pass over to the other side. In other words, there is a beginning and there is an ending.
Yeah.
There is a starting point
Yes, sir.
and there is a destination.
Yeah.
And the reason why many of us have concluded that the storms in our lives are not going to pass is because we don't have a destination in view.
All right. All right, Reverend.
My brothers and sisters, I need you to look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, just like there's a starting. Y'all quiet. Y'all quiet. Say, neighbor, just like there is a starting point, there is a destination. And you see, the problem is Satan does not want you to be where Jesus is taking you.
Amen.
And what he will do, he will create all sorts of disturbances and distractions just so he can discourage you.
Amen.
And I'm wondering, do we have any believer in the house who have made up in his or her mind that I refuse to be discouraged?
All right. All right. Come on, Doc.
You can't stop the disturbance. You can't shut down the distraction. But you sure enough cannot be discouraged. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, don't be discouraged. Maybe you were scared of that person. Turn to your neighbor on the other side and say, neighbor, don't be discouraged. See, when you remember what Jesus has said, you know that you have a destination in view.
Yes, sir.
And then secondly, not only must you remember what he said, but you also must remember what he did.
All right. All right.
Because, my brothers and sisters, Jesus didn't stay on the banks.
Amen. Amen.
Jesus got in the ship with them. And I just need to ask a quick question. Is Jesus riding with you?
Good question, Reverend.
Because you see, when Jesus is riding with you, before the devil can get to you, he has to come through Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I had some help in here. This ain't no long sermon today, so you might as well come on and go with me. I ain't going to be about 5 more minutes.
All right, Doc.
Before the devil can get to you, he has to come through Jesus. And you know what's so good about the devil having to come through Jesus? Jesus already knows how much we can bear.
Yeah. Yeah, Reverend.
I wish I had a praying church. He's not going to allow the enemy to put more on you than you can bear. And so I need to talk to those of us this morning who's having to deal with some heartaches and pains.
All right. All right.
Don't lose heart. Jesus knows you can handle it. If he concluded that you couldn't handle it, it would not have gone as far as it has.
All right. All right, Reverend.
I wish I had a praying church.
Come on, Doc.
You say your spouse is tripping? Are you a child of God? Are you in Jesus' hand? Then Jesus will not allow him to trip no more than you can bear.
All right. All right.
So if he's still tripping, Jesus said you can still bear.
Come on, Reverend.
Somebody say, oh, Lord. But instead of saying, oh, Lord, you ought to be saying, thank God for Jesus. Because the moment it becomes where you can't bear it, he'll shut it down. And I'm sure that we have some witnesses in here. When you felt like you could not go another further, the Lord just stepped in and shut it down. If you've experienced the Lord shutting down some situations in your life, just look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, he'll shut it down. My brothers and sisters, when you feel like you're tired of hearing somebody's mouth, don't you try and shut them down. Because if you do, you'll get in trouble. But I tell you, God has a way of shutting it down. And he'll give you the peace that surpasses. Somebody know what I'm talking about. And what I love about what he will do, even when it's not being shut down, when you're trusting him, you'll still have that peace that surpasses all understanding. And your friends will try and convince you to get out of that situation, and they'll ask you, how can you stay there? How can you stand it? Then you just look at them and you say, well, it's because I have that peace that surpasses all understanding. You see, my brothers and sisters, God did not give us what I would call the option to quit. He gives us staying power. And so when you start thinking about what he has done, you will discover that you have some staying power. If you don't mind, just think about what the Lord has done in your life. Are there any indicators that God has been moving in your life? Has God ever made a way out of no way for you? Has God put food on your table? Has God opened the door that had been closed in your face? Looks like you ought to see some evidence that God has done something in your life. And my brothers and sisters, if you have some evidence in your life that God has been moving in your life, just look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, it ain't no secret what God can do. For what he's done for others, he'll do it for you. And I'm a witness that God, he'll give us staying power. And then thirdly, you got to consider, you got to remember where he said you were going. He did not tell the disciples, I'm bringing you to the middle of the sea. He said, I want us to cross over to the other side. And I'm afraid today that there are many of us who get in the middle of the sea. And instead of us staying the course, we start abandoning ship. But I just want to remind you that when you abandon the ship, you have also abandoned your way out of the storm. Because you see, as long as they stayed in the ship, yes, they had the protection of the ship. And what made the ship, yes, be protected was the fact that Jesus was on the ship. And I'm wondering, as I run to a close, if there's anybody in here today who knows that Jesus is in your life. Yes, if you know that Jesus is in your life, it does not matter how many storms may arise in your life. It does not matter how the wind may blow in your life. But oh, if you would just remain in the ship, yes, you will discover that you might have a sleeping Jesus, but thank God you still have Jesus. And if there's anybody in the building today that knows that you still have Jesus, I need you, if you're not too mean, to just turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, I still have Jesus. And not only do I still have Jesus, but Jesus still has me. I wish I had a praying church today. When you know that you are in the hands of Jesus, you will conclude that when he said the devil in hell cannot pluck you out, it means that no storm can be so great that it will pull you out of the hands of Jesus. I wish I had a praying church. It is saying to you, it does not matter how the wind may blow. The wind cannot blow you out of the hands of Jesus. And I don't know about you today, but I'm so glad that the God that we serve, he specializes in those things that seem impossible. I wish I had a praying church, and because he specializes in those things that seem impossible, I want you to know you need to learn how to just hang on in there. If you don't mind, turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, I know the road gets rough and the going gets tough. Yes, sometimes the hills are so hard to climb, but I'll stop by to tell you, I started out a long time ago, and I have decided to make Jesus my choice. Is there anybody in here today who has made Jesus your choice? If you made Jesus your choice, turn to your neighbor one more time and say, neighbor, I made Jesus my choice. He may not be your choice, but he is my choice. He may not walk with you, but he walks with me. He may not talk to you, but he talks with me. And he tells me that I am his own. And as I close this morning, I want to know, is there anybody in the building who knows that you belong to Jesus? If you know you belong to Jesus, you ought to tell your neighbor, I belong to Jesus. Yes, with Jesus I can stand the storm. With Jesus I can stand the rain. I wish I had a praying church, and because we know Jesus is in our lives, we've got to realize that he is with us. And because he is with us, he's more than the world against us. I wish I had a praying church. As I come to a close today, I'm here to tell you, dry your weeping eyes. Yes, get up and wash your face and encourage yourself. You ought to tell yourself the Lord will make a way somehow. I don't know how he's going to do it, but I know that he will. I wish I had a praying church. The hymnologist said, be not dismayed, whatever betide, God will take care of you. And I wonder if I had any sanctified witnesses that know God will take care of you. Beneath his wings, love abide, he will take care of you. And the reason why I know he will, he's been taking care of you from the early moments of your life. through the storm and through the rain up until this present moment. And I just don't believe he'd bring you this far and then leave you by yourself. As I close this morning, I come to tell you I don't believe he'd bring us this far and then leave us. I'm so glad today they went to Jesus and said, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And I'm so glad today that Jesus stood tall. He spoke to the wind and then he spoke to the waves, and I heard him say, peace be still. And I'm telling you today, whatever you're going through, peace be still. No matter how the rain is falling in your life, peace be still. How men are scandalizing your name, peace be still. And if you don't mind, look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I don't know what you're going through, but the Lord told me to tell you to speak peace into your life. I stopped by to tell you, peace be still. 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 God will. I said God will. God will. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. I know that he will. One Friday, he humbled and died, but early Sunday morning, come on up. Do you know he got up? Do you know he got up? Do you know he got up? Take your neighbor by the hand one more time. Say, neighbor, the reason why it's gonna be all right because Jesus, he got up, and when he got up, all power, all power, all power, all power, all power, all power.
Thank you for joining us this morning. If you have not accepted Christ as your personal Savior, I need you to repeat this prayer with me. Lord Jesus, come into my heart. I believe that you died for my sins and God has raised you from the dead. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, if you prayed that prayer and you've accepted Christ as your personal Savior, give us a call right now. The phone number is listed at the bottom of the screen. We're waiting to hear from you, and we have a free gift just for you. God bless you. Waiting on that call.